Hey guys and gals, what's going on out there? This is Josh, and I recently happened into a service that I felt was, I don't know, worth kind of getting up on my soapbox and screaming about on some level. Not something I normally do, which alone should speak volumes. It's an online advertising service, and it's called Newspapers Alive. And I think it's going to change the way that you think of marketing your own content because I know it did for me. So I don't know. Let's start here. Let me tell you about how I stumbled into what I consider to be my new secret weapon. You know what I'm using to steer traffic right now to my site and steer business in my general direction. So I'm not by any means and a guru as far as any of this goes. I'm learning just like a lot of us are. You know, I've had a few websites, I've had blogs, some small online businesses in the past. Nothing crazy. Kind of always more of a hobby or a learning experience for me than anything. Mostly because I could never take it any further than that. I've had a few stints over the years where I get an idea. It simmers in my brain for a few weeks. And I throw something together and I put my heart and soul into it. I personally commit to making it the next big thing in my life. And I do that for however many months to a year until that bubble kind of pops. You know, eventually the lack of traffic, the lack of visibility, the lack of what seems like the possibility of recuperating the time and the money that I'm pouring into it, all that gets to me. And the lack of success sucks the passion out of it. So I stopped posting as much content. You know, if it's blog based, the daily posts turn to every other day, which turned to once a week eventually, to once a month. And I don't know, you get the picture. Before you know it, I've found something else to devote my time to. And something that's, you know, going to be a better use of my time because obviously if the traffic's not there and you're dumping all your time into a website, it can be really frustrating. So imagine if there was something that could get your content out in front of any market you wanted in a way that few people are taking advantage of. An online advertising service like Newspapers Alive can do that for you. Because the markets you are going to make yourself visible in are completely customizable. And here's how I've used it. So recently I kicked off one of my idea stints that I was talking about earlier. Started a new project, a multi-pronged effort, a website, which is kind of a home base for a podcast 3 days a week. The other 4 days get simple blog posts, and all the content is grounded in politics and news. So I'm putting 3 to 4 hours a night into this for months. And I'm putting content out there, relevant content, new content, stuff people are reading about right now. And I'm using relevant keywords. And I'm following as many of the SEO to-dos on my website as I can find. And I've got my podcast available on every aggregator out there. It's a well-produced show. My blog content is well-researched. It's well-written. I'm advertising on social media. I'm crossing my I's. I'm dotting my T's. So at that point, a few months in, I must be building an empire of subscribers for my show, right? I mean, I must have a huge organic visitation rate, right? Wrong. Drops in the bucket. So here I am. I mean, the show it's reaching new people weekly, but we're talking just a few listeners, growth per episode, if that. And I'm thankful for them, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking to do something a little bigger than this. So I have a friend, and this guy makes his living doing this. And we're sitting down over a couple beers on a Friday night talking about things. And he's talking about all the success he's having marketing himself and his pages. And the audiences he's reaching. And the email subscriptions for his services he's getting. And I think he probably at that point must have watched me visibly disappear and sink into the booth at the restaurant while he listed off the ways that he was just killing it. Because he stopped and he asked me what was up. And at that point, I'm frustrated because I've been listening to him tell me how great things are. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy for him. But I'm frustrating to hear him telling me just the great success he's doing when I've been pouring my life into this website and this podcast and these blog posts. And I told him, you're pulling off everything that I'm trying to. What are you doing? What are you doing different than me? So he starts asking me questions. Are you researching your keywords? Yep. Are you doing it regularly? Yep. What are you doing for SEO? I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. Blah, 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 blah. How's your social media presence? I'm not Donald Trump or anything, but it's growing and it grows regularly, What newspaper markets are you advertising in? And I'm like, yep, wait, what? I had no idea what he was talking about. And I bet most of you don't. Newspapers. I'm like, newspapers? I'm not advertising in any newspapers. It's the internet. I have no idea what you're talking about. And I had never even thought of how newspapers fit into my business model. And he mentioned newspapersalive.com. So I start picking his brain on this. And I asked how much of his traffic is coming from this method. And he told me something like 50% of it. Somewhere around, between 1,500 and 2,000 unique visitors a day are coming from newspaper advertising to his site. And I was floored. I couldn't believe it. So he explained the setup, it gave me the gist of it, how it worked. And I sat there and listened. And he's paying for this package on the site, newspapersalive.com. And with that package, he picks the markets that he's advertising in, which they call zones. And Newspapers Alive runs ads in those markets. There are cities and towns all across the country that are essentially untapped vessels for your offer page, which you put on Newspapers Alive. You can customize it during your setup on there. And that's what the readers see. And that directs them to your page. So that gave me something to think about. And we finished our dinner and our beers, went our separate ways. And when I got home that night, instead of going to bed irritated and mentally beat up with a beer buzz, I went to newspaperalive.com and I started looking at the packages. So there were 3 available. I was a little bit skeptical, of course, beginning here. So I picked the cheapest one, $60 a month, to get me somewhere between 200, 250 unique visitors a month. 30 days. And there weren't any hidden charges or anything like that. It was a flat $60 charge. I could cancel whenever I wanted. And down at the bottom, when I signed up, there was a double your money back guarantee. Basically saying that if the traffic claims were bogus and the traffic wasn't converting, that Newspapers Alive would credit back double what I paid them in a bank draft. So I signed up. And entered in my information, and from there I had a choice to make to pick my own zones, the markets that it's running in. And it's all broken down on a map on the screen, and you can look to see where you want to run these ads, or you can let Newspapers Alive pick it. And this first time around, that's exactly what I let them do, because if they're on the hook for the money, I'd imagine that their picks are going to be pretty good. So after I that all got taken care of, I went in and I customized the offer page. And once that was all set up, so the page is all set up that the readers are going to see, I went to bed. And a couple of days went by. And I waited to check the stats. I did because I just wanted to give things a few days to work, because honestly, I was really, really skeptical. I kept posting my content like I normally do. I kept my normal routine up with SEO, with keywords, with social media. I did my Sunday and Monday blog posts. I did my midweek podcast episodes. And on Friday of that week, when I was done doing the actual podcasts for the week, I pulled up the stats for the days prior. Now, the cool thing about this is I can tell whether it's working the way I want. The podcasts are featured on my page, but are hosted somewhere else. So I can see the downloads of the show broken down. And they're broken down by location. And sure enough, my subscriber base had grown. And it had grown considerably, which obviously was huge anyway. But not by one or two. I mean, we're talking by like 100 plus. And they'd grown primarily in the areas that Newspapers Alive were most active, the zones that were selected. And that was just the podcasts. So 5 or 6 days in, when I was checking these stats, my email signups had increased by a few hundred as well. So I'm still at the beginning of this journey, okay? But I wanted to tell somebody about it, because if you have a page, you should be using this. I mean, my podcast is getting to a point where if it continues on like this, it's going to be generating some revenue soon. I've never had that happen. I've been doing podcasts for years, not this one specifically, but in general. And I've grown some pretty decent sized followings, but I've never really generated any kind of decent revenue from it. And that's coming. I mean, with the numbers that I'm pulling in, and we'll do that via on-air advertising. So when that happens, I'm going to upgrade this package. The Newspapers Alive package that I have, the one I have right now is $60 a month. And the next level, from what I read, is something like 125. It's $125 a month, and then I'll push my visitor increase up to from a couple hundred visitors daily to an extra 450 to 550 unique visitors daily. So in addition to that, I'll get extra zones as well. So the markets I'm advertising in will expand. And the great thing about that is if I can keep the momentum going, there is a third package that's the mother load, obviously. It's like $399 and it's for like 2,000 visitors a day. And that's in every zone available in the United States. But we're going to kick it here for a bit at $60 a month. I'm going to keep growing the base because I'm so far I'm satisfied. It's well worth it. I can visibly see the results from what I'm putting in. And I'm going to grow my subscribers. I'm going to generate some revenue. And I'll keep you all posted. I'll let you know how the next step goes. And, we'll keep an eye on it. But here's what I will say. If you need that kickstart to get those visitors, to get those email subscribers, to get those buyers, drop the $60. Pick your zones and watch. Give it a few days. Watch. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. So go to newspapersalive.com. Go chase a little bit of success in areas that other people are ignoring. How many people have told you newspaper is dead? I've said it myself before. But I'm telling you, give this a shot because there are areas in this country that are absolutely untapped and you're not taking advantage of. So I'm Josh, and I will check back with you guys a little later with a progress report. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great night.